Okay, we are live. Hello, I'm Howard Mann, creator of Conscious Shifting, and welcome to Conscious Shifting. Before we get started, a quick warning and disclaimer. Conscious shifting and all known side effects will improve your physical, mental, and spiritual health while providing the ideal environment for spiritual awakening, helping you live the life of your dreams and influence the world in a positive way. So, if that's something that interests you, you can follow us on Facebook or subscribe on YouTube, and then join us here Wednesday night, 6 p.m. California time for Conscious Shifting. The best way to communicate with us is through our daily thought provoking posts during the live or a replay of the live. Simply place your question in the comment box and we will answer it from a spiritual perspective to the benefit of everyone. Now, sometimes we'll start the show off with a question of the week and then move on to the topic. Other times we receive a lot of questions and we'll actually do a live just on those questions because it's too much material to just do once in a while. In fact, sometimes we get questions that are similar, and so I'll kind of combine them and answer them that way. And that's what we're going to do tonight. We've got a lot of questions that I get on a fairly regular basis, and so once in a while I just go through them. And most people really enjoy it. The thing is that if somebody has a question, chances are there's a lot of you that do. That's why I like it. The questions being put in the comment box, and we'll either do it during the live or at least in the post, because then everybody benefits from it. Let's see who we have in here so far. I see Trey and Richard and Kathy and Tina and Chris and Kim and Ray. Hello, everybody. Let's start by getting nice and relaxed. So deep breath way down to the belly button and relax. And another big deep breath. And relax. And one more big deep breath. And relax. All right, so let's get started here. Now, if you have a question, go ahead and place it in the comment box, but I have some that I've been collecting up. These happen to be the ones that are the most common asks. And the first one has to do with one of our posts. And the post is that intelligence isn't knowing everything, it's questioning everything you know. Hi, Susan. Hi, Tracy. And somebody responded, how is this different from trusting your gut instinct? Does it mean to challenge that? Spirit is the only source that can truly be trusted. Sensory perception of the physical world, such as sight, sound, taste, smell, touch, and thoughts and emotions, are subject to misunderstanding and therefore must be questioned. However, real gut instinct bypasses the intellect, directly perceiving energy. So, real gut instinct may very well be in touch with spirit. Therefore, it should not be discarded in favor of the intellect. Instead, when combined with mental clarity, gut instinct can see past the senses, thoughts, and emotions. What's left is spiritual knowledge. Good question. Next is another one of our posts, and the post is that we create our karma, comma, we create our karma and we can change it. And so a lot of times people will say, well, how? They really have no idea. Everybody's at a different place on their spiritual journey. Some of you have been, we've been doing this for years, and some people, they just tune in and they're beginning their journey. So the thing is, how do you change your karma? In short, by changing your false beliefs. Your false beliefs manifest reality and consequently karma. So you want to change your karma, you change your beliefs. Then sometimes people will say something along the lines of, I don't believe in karma. God heals and forgives. The thing is that God's not concerned with karma. Karma is simply a consequence. For every action, there's a reaction. God's involvement consists of, and so it is. Now, we could go into this a little bit deeper and say that when you co create with spirit, then it's actual creation as opposed to something that I would say appears as reality, but is really a manifestation because it's not co creation. Because we're partial beings of the supreme consciousness, we have the ability to create or manifest that way. So, whatever we think, say, do, does manifest in this physical reality. That's really what creates this physical reality. But it's not real in the sense that it's just it's a partial reality. It's more like a dream. It's more like consciousness or part of consciousness was wondering what it would be like to separate, and boom, here we are. But it's not really possible. And that's why I say, and so it is, because whatever we think, whatever we are, actions we take, whatever we say, manifests into reality. Kim, you want to take care of that? Hi, Marlena. How you doing? All right. So, speaking of karma, that's gonna get you booted. Um, Now, there's other people that'll say that what is done cannot be undone. I don't agree that karma can be undone. Now, it's true. Whatever's happened in the past is done, and it can't be undone. Uh, we can learn from it. We can grow. We can create a brighter future. That kind of stuff. But we can't redo something that's been done. But karma is not the same thing. Karma is a reaction. Karma is a consequence. It's accountability. It's the energetic reaction to your beliefs, thoughts, emotions, words, and actions. So as long as you have a mind body, you're going to have karma because the mind body comes with, the ability to do things, the ability to think things, say things. And so those are the things that generate karma. So as long as you're in a mind body or you have a mind body, you're going to create karma. Now, if your beliefs are inappropriate, then you're going to manifest some problems. However, you will change your karma by replacing your inappropriate beliefs with beliefs based on higher truths. So, again, we have a lot more control than what we think we do. All right, hang on a second. I gotta take care of this. And of course, I can't do it from where I am. All right. Okay, I think it's covered now. We had somebody spamming everyone. Sorry about that, folks. Um, Speaking of which, another one of our posts that was exactly, Trey. When we wish something bad for others, it can be visited upon us, and it will. Typically, the way karma works is it's not just that you get what you dish, you get an extra helping. That's usually closer to the truth. And um, the other post kind of ties into this. It's everyone makes mistakes, but that doesn't mean that they must pay for them for the rest of their lives. And somebody responded to that, well, it depends on their mistakes. The thing is, regardless of, and this is difficult for some people, there is some really horrendous things that happen in this world. Evil, you know, evil at the hands of people that you depend on and you're supposed to be able to trust and are supposed to be looking out for you. I understand all that. But regardless of the mistakes, there's always the possibility of rising in consciousness. And in doing so, realizing salvation. If that were not the case, then salvation would not be possible for anyone. God and unconditional love exist, and therefore so does salvation. It has nothing to do with what the mistake was. It has to do with rising in consciousness and changing, and therein lies salvation. Some things are unforgivable. There's people that believe that. Now, for complete forgiveness, the error must be corrected by a change in behavior. Forgiveness does not mean that inappropriate and hurtful behavior should be accepted and allowed to continue. However, for all parties involved, forgiveness is the path to enlightenment. Forgiveness is understanding that there is light deep within the darkness of human imperfection. And so forgiveness is seeing the light. So to forgive is to forgive yourself for not seeing the light in others and judging them as less than. It's also seeing the light within yourself because it's the same light. You see how that works? There's only one spirit. We're all part of it. When we descend into matter, find ourselves in the human condition, all kinds of things can go wonky. People can get into some dark places. People can get into some very dark places. And so that's really where this stuff is coming from. Or they've been, another way to look at it is they've been hurt in some way. They've been traumatized in some way. Remember, emotional trauma is just a situation where it lacks love. And so it creates damage, especially if you don't know, if you take it personally, you become damaged. And then that pain can manifest in all kinds of ways. You get enough of it and it can be horrendous. Serial killers, let's take an extreme example. Well, they're extremely damaged, but way deep inside is the same light that exists in all of us. There's only one spirit and we're all part of it. And so that's why I say that forgiveness is understanding that there's light deep within the darkness of human imperfection. It's critical to understand that. It's not saying everything that everybody does is okay. It's not saying that at all. It's not saying, oh, we'll just forget. It's like it never happened or get over it, Skippy. It's nothing of the sort. Forgiveness is seeing the light. So to forgive is to forgive yourself for not seeing the light in others and the light within yourself, because it is the same light. Trey says forgiveness is always attainable with spiritual growth. Indeed. That's really one of the main concepts within higher consciousness or spiritual truths is forgiveness. Because what causes a lot of the spiritual blocks, what causes a lot of the problems in the world is instead of forgiving, we get triggered and, it becomes an egotistical battle. And that's never going to be good for anybody. Marlena, true human behavior is inspiration or manipulation. Indeed. And you don't have to respond with like and kind. You can understand that somebody is really damaged and so they project this garbage onto the world. You just happen to be standing there at the time. Now, that's their karma. How they act is their karma. How you respond is yours. So whatever they're projecting doesn't define you. It says more about them than it does you. How you respond, though, that defines you. You know, are you damaged, and so now you're going to have two damaged people going at it, or can you bring love into the situation and do what you can in the moment and let the rest go? Chris, it all comes from experiencing a lack of love. Exactly. All of it. I mean, it sounds woo woo. I get it. I know. But as you start to grow spiritually, you'll understand that it's the truth, so there's no point in denying it because it doesn't sound strong or tough or masculine or whatever. It's actually the strongest, toughest thing in the world. Love is capable of things that nothing else is capable of. Remember that. So you could boil all interactions down to two things: either an expression of love or a cry for love. So if somebody's not expressing love, then it's a cry for love, regardless of how it's painted. That's If you boil it down, that's what you're going to find. When you understand that, it makes your interactions with difficult people a lot easier because they can be challenging, I'll admit, but it doesn't change anything. It requires greater spiritual strength or understanding to deal with them. That's all. But we can at least give it our best shot. And where we fail, then we forgive ourselves for being imperfect as well. Somebody sent me something. Now, this was kind of interesting. They were really thinking about it, and they said, "I just thought all were killed in the great flood except Noah. Does that mean Noah spread the story of Adam and men before him?" Wow, that we could go all night on that one, but many stories, especially in the older religious context, are metaphors. Spiritual teachers used to teach that way. Jesus talked a lot in metaphors and parables and stories because it was a way to help people understand the context. But the stories weren't really supposed to be literal. Now, a lot of people do take the story of Noah and every word in the Bible as the literal truth. And that's okay. But I'll just say that many of the stories are metaphors. Some stories are based on actual events, but they're not exact accounts of those events. So there's a little bit of difference there. I would say that Adam and Eve are metaphorical. And we'll do a live on that some night. That's a really good live. And I've never done that, but we will. Adam and Eve are metaphorical. You have to understand it to understand anything, but it's not a literal story. However, there have been many great floods within certain regions all over the world. You find stories of great floods very similar to Noah in almost every major religion there is. At different times, somewhat, but still very similar stories. Archaeologists have found evidence of it. Geologists have found evidence of it. There's no doubt that there's been great floods in huge regions multiple times in history. And so, if you imagine a more sparse population, more isolated populations of people, and then a region flooding, to the people that live in those areas, it would have seemed like the whole world was flooding. So that's what I say when some of these stories could have been actual events, but not exact accounts of the events. And you also get into things like when they're talking about the time, and some of that is symbolic as well. There's religious meaning in certain numbers and certain words, even not to be taken literal, but a lot of people do. So that's how I would answer. That's how I would answer that. But we'll do the whole. Well, I'll do some of those. I'll take a few of them on, and we'll do lives on some of the biblical stories. Those would be interesting. It's fascinating stuff. Trey says, I stunt my own growth when I lack forgiveness. I understand that now. Indeed. Indeed. A lot of people have a difficult time with forgiveness. Um, they think what somebody did was really rotten, and they take it far too personal, and they don't own whatever part they played in it. As they say, it takes two to tango. So, no matter how you perceive things, somebody does something really rotten to you, you had something to do with it. At the very least, you chose to be there with that person at that time. But I think if we were to sit down and get into the nitty gritty details, that I could, in any event, I could show you where you played some part in it. Not that you should be taking all the blame. People have to be responsible and, for their actions, but it's not like you had nothing to do with either. And so forgiveness is a multidimensional thing. You're forgiving somebody for acting inappropriate. And if you reacted negatively towards them, you forgive yourself for not seeing the light in them, not seeing that what's really happening here is that their pain is being projected onto you. It doesn't have much to do with you. So you forgive yourself for not seeing the truth in the situation. So you're forgiving imperfection on many levels. If you're able to do that in the moment, there's a lot of healing that can take place, by the way. And your life will go in a completely different direction, because rather than these things being these blow up moments and escalating and going on for years and these feuds and I'll get you and this kind of stuff, it becomes something completely different. Sometimes the person, and it doesn't always happen, sometimes the person is just not ready. They're um they're either way too damaged, or you don't really have the ability to reach them where they are, but you can still treat them with kindness. There's other times, however, where just by a smile or a couple of words and them realizing that they're not alone and that you actually do care about them, even though they've just done what they've done, they'll completely break down. They'll completely break down. And all this emotional come flowing to the surface. And, perhaps lifetimes of healing can happen in that moment just because you didn't go tit for tat with them. Like I said, love is capable of doing things that nothing else can. It is the highest vibration in the universe. It is the consciousness of God, is unconditional love. So we can strive for that, right? You like that, Tina? We'll do that. We'll do that. I'll make a note of it, and we will do it. It would be a good live. There's so much going on in some of those stories of the past, and some of the classic biblical stories. There's so much going on in them. You could just take some of them, a single aspect of a story, and do a whole hour live on it. But we'll do some of those. That'll be fun. Hi, Brian. How you doing? Brian says, I feel like there are real and true victims out there that had nothing to do with the trauma they have encountered. Sometimes it seems like it only takes one to tango. It can seem that way. It can seem that way. And I'm not saying that, that you have to take responsibility for somebody else's actions. But what I can tell you is that as you progress in your spiritual journey and your understanding of things deepens, you'll start to see things in a completely different way. And you'll start to realize how you could have done something different in the moment and how it would have changed that moment, or how you could have done something prior to that moment and how that moment would not have even happened. And it's not to start saying who's to blame for what. It's not about blame. You know, in those situations, people are experiencing the pain that they're experiencing, and it's real, and they're projecting it. If you are damaged yourself by that, as hard as this is to accept, if you're hurt by what somebody else does, then what's really going on is that somewhere within you, you've been damaged in a similar way. And so you're resonating with the pain that they're projecting. Everything that goes on in this universe is energy interacting with energy. If somebody's throwing out some, vicious vibes, and you start resonating with that, it's because somewhere within your psyche you have some similar damage. And so you relate to it. That you may not realize that consciously. It takes a lot to understand all of this stuff. But in a nutshell, that's what's going on. And so, like a tuning fork, you know, if you strike a tuning fork, that vibration goes out into the room. Anything of a similar makeup will start vibrating. It's resonating with that energy. And the same can be said for emotional trauma. Somebody who's experienced something and they're projecting pain onto the world, it's not about the people they're projecting it on. Those people just happen to be there. But we can take it really personally. But that's more an indication of what we have inside of us than anything about what they're doing or saying. Because if we really understood the situation, we'd see it for what it is. They're damaged and they're projecting pain. You almost can't hold them responsible. They do need to be accountable for what they do, but in a way, they don't know any better. Look at it that way. Like you wouldn't, a small child, you don't expect too much out of them. Think of damaged people the same way. They're really not capable of doing any more than they are, unfortunately. There's a lot of healing that has to take place. So you can do what you can to help with that healing and let the rest go, or you can add to it. But then it's just a lot more karma for everybody, isn't it? Kim says it can be difficult to bring love to difficult situations when people are acting out. Oh, it can. It can be very difficult. I'm not saying any of this is necessarily easy, but the higher you rise in consciousness, the deeper your understanding, the easier it gets. I will say that. I will say that. You just understand, you know. Oops. What am I doing here? Okay, there we go. This thing it blocks some of the when I hit the button, it blocks some of the writing, so I have to guess what's behind it. I think so. Explains into life missions. Bad things happen to good people. Those good people move on to help others heal their wounds. I feel comfort when I think of it this way. Yeah, and another thing that's hitting on something really important. You can take something that you've risen above and make it meaningful by using it to be a better person, live a better life, put off better vibes, and relate to people that are going through something similar. You can reach them in ways that no one else can because you've been through it. So that's what I mean when I say there's a lot of different ways to handle the exact same situation. Some of them result in healing, and some of them result in more trauma and more bad karma. Hi, Cheryl. Love, laugh, and be happy in the house. Hi, Anna. Chris, as a child, I grew up watching abuse to my mother. I was innocent. But as I'm older, I understand that it made me really treat women how they should be treated instead of what I witnessed. That's a great thing. There's two ways those situations go. Sometimes people, when they're in an abusive situation, they become abusive. Most child molesters were molested. Most people that, you know, get physical with other people, they had physical abuse done to them. Same with verbal. But other times, we're able to rise above that and be even more compassionate with somebody because we've seen the other end of that and we don't like it and we don't want to be that person, and it motivates us to do things differently. So that's a great thing right there. Great thing. Kim says we always do better than we had. Well, yeah, most people do. Most of the general population, that's how they roll. They want to make it better for their kids than they had it. There's some weird stuff going on in the world right now. We'll be doing lives about that, but for the most part, yes. And that's what made America different. It was about everybody coming together from different backgrounds for a common goal, and that was the common goal. The dream was to provide the best standard of living possible and pass on something even better for our children than we had, even if that meant some sacrifice. Um, Unfortunately, there's some there's some other things going on in the world right now, but and in this country too. We'll talk about that. But yeah, that is a great thing to make this a better place than you found it. Exactly. Exactly. And a lot of guys, they don't know how to treat women. You know, the pop culture doesn't show them how to do that. Exactly the opposite. Um, and a lot of guys, they grow up in a household where they don't learn that. Makes it tough. It makes it real tough. So there was a post that said, "Don't gain the world and lose your soul. Wisdom is better than silver or gold." And it was a quote from Bob Marley. And somebody responded with, "You can gain the world and still not lose your soul." Um, and as I remember, they went on a little bit. It was materialism, and so the thing to remember is you cannot serve two masters, especially when they're really polar opposites. When you focus on the material, you're going to pay a spiritual price. It doesn't mean that material things are bad. It doesn't mean that you can't pursue them or enjoy them or gain a lot of them. What I mean when I say focus on the material, when your primary focus is on the material and you justify the expense of anything and everyone else in the pursuit of that material, then a spiritual price is going to be paid. But on the other hand, if you focus on the spiritual, the material naturally follows. You'll be provided everything you need and more if you focus on the spiritual. It's just how it works. You will attract it. It will be provided for you because of the vibes that you're putting off. Spirituality is a higher consciousness, and so it manifests a higher reality. You don't have to worry about the material. It's not that things won't happen. There's still lessons to be learned, but just understand that that's what's going on. Like the dark night of the soul we were talking about, I think last week. That's really what it is. Your level of consciousness is being tested. Just know that that's what's going on, and trust in spirit, and everything will work out. Nothing that goes on here changes anything of importance anyway. You know, this is all just make believe for the benefit of expressing things and learning lessons. But it has nothing that goes on here has any way of changing who and what you are. You're an immortal spiritual being. You're eternal. Nothing can change that. You know that was Jesus's thing on the cross. It's like, you know, This is nothing. This isn't me up here. This is a shell that I temporarily inhabited while I was here. Doesn't change a thing. In fact, it's like in Star Wars where Obi-Wan got struck down, and you just become stronger because you're no longer a limited being. you know, you're no longer a limited being. When you move on, uh, you're more powerful than you ever could have been in life. Awesome. Hi, Tammy. Kim says, "Isn't higher consciousness changing us?" It is, and that's one of the things that's going on right now. Is the awakening process, and as you rise in consciousness, you will change. Your karma will change. The reality around you will change. These these tests, when passed, will eventually lead to a level of consciousness where, like Jesus, we completely and totally identify with who and what we are. When that's the level of consciousness that you operate at, the, imagine what you're going to manifest. If reality is a manifestation of your level of consciousness, which it is, and this universe and everything in it is a manifestation of our collective consciousness, imagine what the universe and the world is going to look like when people rise several levels above where we are right now. Will be a completely different world. And eventually that could create what you would call heaven on earth. That's probably the way you would explain it. It won't be so physical at that point. But um, it still, it would be what you would describe as heaven on earth because operating at identification with spirit, what else could you manifest? All this negative stuff is from identification with ego. Once you rise above that, it won't happen anymore. Cheryl says we manifest what we visualize. More love leads the way with more spiritual growth. Exactly. Chris, as I mentioned last week about how I was starting a new chapter, I've already attached new spiritual people in my life. Totally spontaneous, loving it. Good deal. That's how you roll. Tammy says that she's excited about the next chapter. And Kim's asking, how does ego control so much? Well, when we identify with it, then it's like we start believing it is us. And so, this viewpoint is the way I can best describe it. We've manifested this realm of time and space, and so we have to have a way to navigate it. If you're in a realm of time and space, you have to understand and be able to move and manipulate time and space. If you want to cook a meal, if you want to cook a meal, you want to catch a bus, you want to plan a barbecue, you want to communicate with somebody else. All these things require a point of view where you can navigate through time and space. So it's necessary. The problem is that as we descended into matter, we started believing that this was reality and that this mind body was who we are. And so we adopted the viewpoint of the ego as ourself. That gives it all the power because then your thoughts and emotions, everything that you see through the ego, you mistake as yourself and as reality, and that energizes it and manifests it into reality. The thing with spiritual awakening is not that you're necessarily just going to disappear, go back into the spiritual realm and hang over there. It's that you still live in the physical realm. You still inhabit a physical body, but you recognize that it has nothing to do with who and what you are. That you're actually a spiritual being temporarily in the human condition. Just that insight into the truth of who and what you are will change everything, because then the ego doesn't become so powerful. You'll still have thoughts and emotions. You're in a body, you're going to have them. You still have to navigate time and space, but you'll do so as a spiritual being. And then you look to spirit as the guide, and spirit, the spiritual realm, as reality. And this is just this sub reality where we get to play the game of life and, you know, learn lessons. But the real point of all of this is to express ourselves as our spiritual essence while in human form. That's spiritual mastery. And when you're able to do that, it's just like this spirit or unconditional love. God is going to flow through you. You're going to bridge that realm to this realm. And it creates a completely different vibe and a completely different reality. And when enough people are doing that, which is what's starting to happen, then reality is going to shift accordingly. Yes, a family reunion, indeed. Tina's asking, what about those who can see and communicate with spirit? Are they on the highest level of consciousness? Not necessarily, but they are open to the spiritual realm. Now, you can't separate yourself from it. There's a lot of different levels to what's going on here, consciously, that is. You can't really separate yourself from what you are, which is spirit. We're all part of it. So it's a false belief that we can separate from it. That actually is the fall from grace, is believing that separation occurred. But it's not really possible. But by believing that we're separate from God, by believing that we're separate from each other, we create these spiritual blocks. Some people in this lifetime will remove enough of those blocks to where they can kind of, the information can flow from the spiritual realm through them into this world. And some of that they may become conscious of. And so that's how that communication becomes possible. But that's actually what I suggest. I suggest that you become a bridge, let spirit not only guide you, but flow through you. Let the infinite live through you, and you'll transcend karma. What the vibe that you'll bring to the world is unconditional love, and it changes everything. But that's how you do it. But in that process, yes, you will start becoming you will start to understand things on deeper and deeper and deeper levels. And at some point, it will start to appear to other people as something, way out there, even miraculous, because within the manifestation are limitations set by the consciousness, the level of consciousness that's doing the manifesting. So anything that happens outside of those beliefs appears as miracles. When somebody that has actually risen a little bit higher in consciousness becomes capable of doing those things, they don't see them necessarily as miraculous. They see it more as the natural state of things. It's always been that way. They just didn't believe it, and so it didn't happen. And most of the people on the planet, that's where they are. The highest level, yeah, that would be difficult. Um, that would be difficult and still be in a human body. But you can identify, you can have knowledge of who and what you are while you're here. But the highest level, that would probably just I that would be hard. Um, I don't know that that's possible. I think the highest level would just be when you finally completely enlightened, and in addition to that, moved on into that realm, and you just are. Um, that kind of consciousness, it would be a little difficult to navigate around here. And interesting to think about. Yes, all those things. See, we think and we experience time, but it's an illusion. If you were to rise in consciousness, you will. I should say, when you rise in consciousness to a point, you'll begin to understand that the present moment is the PowerPoint, that you are, or some level of your soul is living all of your timelines within this lifetime right now. But to take it further, you're actually living all the timelines of all of your incarnations, past and future, right now. And to take it even further, you're living all of the timelines of all of the incarnations of all of the souls right now. That must be so because there's only one spirit and time is an illusion. So, to the extent that we buy into the ego, to the extent that we buy into this as reality, we limit ourselves and our ability to perceive higher realities. But that doesn't mean that we can't do it. It just means that we've got blocks to it for a while. You know, everybody's going to get there. It's that's why I say, a lot of people get the idea that they can, become an enlightened being, and they'll just move on, and everyone else is stuck here. It doesn't quite work like that. Uh, we're all one spirit, so everybody kind of needs to become enlightened before we go home. So there's more of that unconditional love. It's like we're like Ram Dass said, we're walking each other home. Um, it's really what's going on here. Let's see, where was I? Yes, Kim says we all have special gifts. Some are just more tuned into them. Exactly. Looks like there's a lot of agreements on this stuff. Good, 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 good. Yes, the present moment is a gift from God. Indeed. Indeed, Tammy. Well said. Chris, can you tell us how to connect to our future self for guidance? Now, isn't that an interesting thought? All I can say is just always work to be the highest version. The answer to everything, the answer to everything is always try and be the highest version of yourself possible in any moment. Let spirit guide you, in other words, and you'll get there. You'll get there to where you'll start knowing things that haven't happened yet. You'll start understanding and healing things of the past. You'll start understanding other people, and almost like you're reading their minds. There's a lot that happens. And the higher you evolve in consciousness, the more of that is going to start happening. But, it's a process for most people. We probably wouldn't be able to handle everything all at once. It'd just be too much. it'd be too much of a shock on our system. And so we get it in moments. And I think that's the thing with time. It's like moment to moment to moment. So it's like baby steps. In reality, they don't exist. It's all this is in a flash, but we don't perceive it that way. And I don't think that we could. Trey says, I get so overwhelmed sometimes with the shedding and rebuilding. Lots of quiet time needed. Well, see, there you go. That's exactly what I'm saying. It's a lot of people go, well, just okay, just give it all to me now. No, you wouldn't. You probably wouldn't be able to handle it. It's their divine timing is what it is. Just trust in it. All right. Kim says we have a hard time handling the power going out. We have a long road ahead. Yeah, I think she's talking about the grid out here. The more solar fields they put in, the more unreliable our grid seems to get. We have these power outages for 5 hours. We had one for 12 hours not too long ago. It's just ridiculous. All right, so you cannot serve two masters. We talked about that one. Here's one. There was a post that says, "Don't despise what you've been through. You needed the lesson." And the common response to that is from people that disagree with it is that there's a lot I've been through that I didn't want or need. But then you don't really understand because you manifested it. And if it wasn't what you needed, you wouldn't have manifested it. Once you realize that you're here to learn life lessons, you'll soon realize it's the only way to transcend lower consciousness. And so you'll start embracing it more and more and more. Here's a good one. I guess I get some of these. Self-healing is utter and complete BS. That was the message I got. So, okay. Self-healing is what I teach. And so what I did is I sent them, I told them that they knew it. That's why they said that. And I said, here's the first 3 lessons for you and think about these and with an open mind. And I think you'll start to realize that it's not. Lesson 1, self-healing is possible. Lesson 2, you are far more powerful than you believe. And lesson 3, at least 99% of your health is based upon your beliefs. Failure to recognize these truths creates spiritual blocks and prevents you from healing. So you're your own worst enemy. Self-healing is physical, mental, and spiritual, far more than can be addressed in a social media post, which is why I write books on the subject. Healing is a spiritual purification process that can result in a physical cure. Not always, but it can. And I told this person, for example, because they obviously are new, I've cured a lot of nerve damage from spinal injuries and related surgeries. And I was told by many spinal surgeons, neurosurgeons, and other medical personnel that was simply impossible. There was no way to repair those nerves. And yet they're repaired to the tune of about 1,000% better than what they said was medically possible. And yet it happened. So self-healing is very real. I'm also a cancer survivor. These are facts. So you can't make the statement that it's all BS. Now, life has no guarantees. And, we're all going to return home at some point, and we'll probably be back many times. But there's plenty of cases of terminal patients having only months to live and yet somehow healing. The doctors have given up on them. There's nothing more we can do. You got 3 months. Here's some morphine, this kind of stuff. Now, they're what the medical community refers to as sudden remissions. Other people call them miracle healings. You're probably aware that, or you're probably unaware, perhaps if you haven't listened to me talk about this before, that there's people that suffer from severe multiple personality disorder, and they're documented to having their mind power alter their physical characteristics, such as their face. The muscles change so much that they look like a different person, and their eye color can change. Even scars can appear and disappear depending on which personality is dominant at the time. Something else to consider: as much as half, and by some doctors even say as much as 2/3 of the effectiveness of medicine is called the placebo effect. In other words, medical treatment and a drug's ability to work largely depend upon how much you believe the treatment will work. So you're as much involved in your physical curing as the doctor is. But that's a little different than spiritual healing. See, spiritual healing is a spiritual purification, or a healing is a spiritual purification process, whereas physical curing, that's more like what people usually think of when they hear the word healing. But I differentiate the two because, curing is being disease free. Healing is getting to the root cause of what actually caused the disease in the first place. And that's far more important, whether it does or does not result in a cure. Sometimes your journey is simply living with something and not letting it define you. That is your journey. And the lessons within that are what you need, which is why it's being manifested. Now, that's difficult for some people to accept, but until you do, um, you're not going to be able to work with that. You're not going to rise any further in consciousness with that regard. Yeah, I know. Our own satellite. That, that would be cool. uh, Susan's asking, can you heal mind? Yes, you can heal body, you can heal mind, and the result is a higher uh, level of consciousness, or more true. And speaking of your own satellite, a solid connection to your soul. I meant heal my spine. To an extent, yes. I'm working on 100%. I'm not there yet, but I'm 1,000% better than what they said was medically possible. Now, I did have surgery to stabilize the structure, the bone. But the nerves are something that they can't really fix, but you can. Yeah. Yep. Part of it, what I've done is mental, and believing that it's possible and seeing myself as being healed. And part of it is getting out and doing things that they say I couldn't do, like walk without the use of a cane, without falling. I walk miles a day now without falling with no cane. And they said I would either need a walk or a cane at all times. I don't. So yeah, you can. I'm not saying it's going to happen overnight, and I'm not saying it's easy, but yes, you can. Hi, Katja. I don't know. All right, so we're just about out of time. I'm not going to get through all of these. Maybe we'll do some another night, because we'll do a little healing circle here, similar to some we've done in the past. But this is one of my favorites, or something similar to this, because it's just so there. Um, Let me get this banner up for anyone that comes in the middle of it. There we go. Okay, so everybody gather around, join hands, forming a circle. Nice, comfortable, upright position. Eyes and mouths gently closed, breathing through the nose down to the lower energy center just below the belly button, and then exhaling back out through the nose. So nice deep breath, inhaling peace, and then exhale all tension. Another deep breath, inhaling peace, and exhale all troublesome thoughts, all negative energy, all disease. Another deep breath, breathe in the peace, and exhale all resistance to this moment, all concepts of time. All right, continue breathing on your own, and then just follow the breath as it goes in and out. Let your consciousness just ride the breath. And then, if you can, notice the expansion of energy. Now, you may or may not be at a point where you can feel it, but you can maybe visualize it. Breath, oxygen is a form of energy. It energizes the body. It's converted into the life force, utilized, and then when it's spent, we exhale out the toxins that are left. But you may feel your energy starting to expand when you sit quietly and focus on the breath. And if you do, that's fine. Just notice that. Notice that the energy will build and it'll move around your body. And when we're in the healing circle, it'll move. That's why I say hold hands, because a lot of times you can, even though this world, the ego will tell you that we're in separate places, you can feel each other's hands, and you can feel the energy moving from hand to hand through us around the circle. And as I said that, I know some of you are like, whoa, I do feel it. And I'm not asking you to, live in a world of make believe. If you feel it, you feel it. If you don't, you don't. But trust me, you will at some point. So just allow the energy to expand. It's not going to harm you in any way. You're safe here. And follow the energy where it goes. Let your consciousness just ride the energy and follow it where it goes. See what expanse takes place. And then allow your consciousness to move down through your feet into Mother Earth, going deeper and deeper and deeper, like you have roots coming out of the bottom of your feet, going around the entire planet. And then up from your crown, let the energy expand into the heavens, your consciousness, up into the universe, filling the universe and even going beyond. And then bridge the earthly and heavenly energies. Be a conduit. Let spirit flow through you and into this world. Make the connection, be the doorway, be the bridge. Let it flow through you into this world. Because you are it, and it is you. Pure consciousness. You are. We are. There is no self. There is no other. There is no pain. There is no suffering. There is no disease. Let's just sit with that for a moment, and then we'll continue. Okay. Pure consciousness. That's what we are. And you can only experience it. It's difficult to explain in words and concepts because it's beyond all that. That's why I say, there is no self, there is no other, there is no pain, there is no suffering, there is no disease. There is only the illusion of separation and the reality of consciousness. So let's send that vibe out through all parts of the planet and up into all parts of the universe. One spirit, unlimited and eternal. And so it is. All right, slowly open your eyes. Let me put this down. There we go. All right, so I think that's it for tonight. Yes, all the basics: nutrition, hydration, exercise, sleep, stress management, all the basics. And then beyond that, it's just a matter of letting spirit guide you. Ask for guidance and accept it. Kim reminding everybody to drink a full glass of water. Speaking of hydration. Awesome, you guys. I'm glad to hear it. Glad you like that. I see all your comments and I appreciate it. Richard felt lots of energy in the hands. Awesome. All right. So, yeah, there you go, Cheryl. All right. I honor the God in you. And remember, until the next time, the only way to bring about the greater good is to be the greater good. Good night.